Hello, dear students. Today we will discuss chapter number 6 Life Processes, class 10th Science. All living things perform certain life processes like growth, excretion, respiration, circulation, etc. All the processes like respiration, digestion, which together keep the living organism live and perform the job of body maintenance, are called life processes. Modes of nutrition in plant. Plants are autotrophs, make their own food. Nutrition in animals. Animals are heterotrophs, depend on plants or other animals. Autotrophic nutrition. It is a kind of nutrition in which inorganic materials like carbon dioxide, water, etc. are utilized to prepare organic food by the process of photosynthesis, that is green plants. The organisms which carry out autotrophic nutrition are called autotrophs, green plants. Autotrophs use simple inorganic material and convert it into complex high energy molecules, carbohydrate. Autotrophic nutrition is fulfilled by the process by which autotrophs take in carbon dioxide and hydrogen and convert these into carbohydrates in the presence of chlorophyll. Sunlight is called photosynthesis. इक्वेशन फॉर फोटोसिंथेसिस आप ये देख सकते हैं इक्वेशन 6CO2 plus 12H2O in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. C6H12O6 यानी कार्बोहाइड्रेट, oxygen and water. Site of photosynthesis. Some cells contain green pigments which are cell organelles called chloroplast which contains chlorophyll. यानी ग्रीन लीव्स में क्लोरोफिल होता है और वहीं फोटोसिंथेसिस होता है. नॉर्मली हेटरोट्रॉफिक न्यूट्रिशन, kind of nutrition in which organisms do not possess the ability to synthesize their own food. They depend on autotrophs for their food supply directly or indirectly. Example animals, fungi, etc. यानी कि जो एनिमल्स होते हैं वो दूसरे एनिमल्स पे या प्लांट्स पे डिपेंड करते हैं अपनी फूड रिक्वायरमेंट के लिए, इसलिए इनको हेटरोट्रॉफ्स कहते हैं. होलोजोइक न्यूट्रिशन. एनिमल्स टेक इन सॉलिड फूड एंड ब्रेक डाउन इनसाइड द बॉडी. Example amoeba or other animals. Saprophytic nutrition. Organisms feed on dead decaying matter. Example fungi. Parasitic nutrition. Parasites live inside or outside other organism host and derive nutrition from it. Example cuscata. Plant parasites, ticks, etc. How organisms obtain their food. Unicellular single celled organism. Food is taken up through entire surface. Example amoeba, paramecium, etc. आप देख सकते हैं वो सूडोपोडिया से ही फूड ले लेता है, इंगल्फ कर लेता है और वो डाइजेस्ट हो जाता है. न्यूट्रिशन इन ह्यूमन बीइंग. द alimentary canal is basically a long tube extending from the mouth to the anus. Various regions are specialized to perform different function. You can see here human digestive system. Mouth, intake of whole food. Teeth, chewing, grinding of food. Tongue, rolling of food plus tasting of food plus swallowing, pushing down of the food. Salivary glands secrete saliva plus mucus. It is sticky gelatinous material that lines your lungs, throat, mouth, nose and sinuses. Plus starch is converted into glucose by saliva, salivary amylase. यानी डाइजेशन हमारा माउथ में ही स्टार्ट हो जाता है. Esophagus, taking food from mouth to stomach by peristaltic movement, contraction and expansion of muscles of the esophagus. Stomach, gastric glands present in stomach secrete gastric juices. Gastric juice में pepsin, enzyme that breaks down protein, HCl, makes the medium acidic. Mucus protects inner lining of the stomach. Small intestine. The small intestine is the site of the complete digestion of carbohydrate, proteins and fats. Walls of small intestine secrete intestinal enzymes which convert carbohydrate into glucose, fats in fatty acid plus cholesterol and protein into amino acids. It has villi, finger-like projection, which help in the absorption of food into blood. It receives the secretion of the liver and pancreas. The food is acidic, which is made alkaline for the pancreatic enzyme to act. The pancreas secretes pancreatic juice, which contains enzymes like trypsin for digesting proteins and lipase for breaking down emulsified fats. Fats are present in the intestine in the form of large globules, which makes it difficult for enzymes to act on them. Bile salts breaks them down into smaller globules, which increases the efficiency of enzyme action. Large intestine absorbs excess of water. The rest of the material is removed from the body via the anus.
Respiration. The process of releasing energy from oxidation of food is called respiration. Oxidation of food takes place in cell. That's why sometimes it is also called cellular respiration. It is of two type, aerobic and anaerobic. Let us start from aerobic. The respiration which needs oxygen or occurs in the presence of oxygen is called aerobic respiration. During this type of respiration, glucose is broken down into carbon dioxide and water with the release of considerable amount of energy. The energy is stored in the form of ATP. It consists of two steps, glycolysis. The conversion of glucose into pyruvate or pyruvic acid is called glycolysis. It occurs in cytoplasm. Krebs cycle. It is the process of converting pyruvate into carbon dioxide and water along with the release of considerable amount of energy. It occurs in the mitochondria. One molecule of glucose liberates 38 ATP of energy during aerobic respiration. And this ATP is used, the energy from the ATP is used for various cells functions. Anaerobic respiration. The respiration which takes place in the absence of oxygen is called anaerobic respiration. During this respiration, glucose is broken down into ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide with the release of very small amount of energy. In anaerobic respiration, one molecule of glucose produces only 2 ATP of energy. This type of respiration occurs in microscopic organisms like yeast, bacteria, etc. Pyruvic acid convert into ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide. In human beings, the energy is obtained by aerobic respiration, but sometimes anaerobic respiration occurs in muscles during vigorous exercise when oxygen gets consumed faster than its supply by the blood. During the anaerobic respiration in the muscle, the glucose is converted into lactic acid with the release of 2 ATP of energy. So now let us discuss the mechanism of breathing. The human respiratory system begins from the nose cavities called nostrils. The air from cavity enters into the pharynx and then into the trachea or windpipe. The trachea runs down the neck and divides into two tubes called bronchi. Each bronchi is connected to a lung. In the lungs, each bronchi divides into a large number of thin tubes called bronchioles. The bronchioles have a tiny air sac at their end called alveoli. It is in the alveoli where exchange of gases takes place. When we breathe in air, the diaphragm contracts and flattens, which result in the increase in volume of chest cavity. Due to this expansion of chest cavity, the air pressure in the lungs decreases. Thus, the air from outside rushes into the lungs through nostrils, trachea, and bronchi. Therefore, air sacs of lungs get filled with air. When we breathe in, the exchange of gases between alveoli and blood take place by the process of diffusion. Oxygen from alveoli reaches blood and CO2 from blood diffuse into alveoli. Now, the air present in the air sacs of the lungs is rich in carbon dioxide. When we breathe out air, the diaphragm relaxes, which result in the decrease in volume of the chest cavity. This pushes the air from the lungs into the trachea, nostril, and then out of the body. Breathing in air is called inhalation or inspiration, and breathing out of the air is called exhalation or expiration. Mechanism of gases exchange during respiration. The oxygen is carried by blood to all parts of the body. Actually, hemoglobin of the red blood cells binds oxygen and takes to the different parts. As the blood passes through the tissues of the body, the oxygen from the blood diffuses into the cell, whereas the carbon dioxide, which is produced during respiration, diffuses into the blood and is carried to the lungs. And in the lungs, breathing in and breathing out takes place. हार्ट यानी कि दिल या हृदय, ये एक पंपिंग ऑर्गन है। ये ब्लड बॉडी के डिफरेंट पार्ट्स को भेजता है, पंप करता है। इसका साइज मुट्ठी के आकार का होता है। ये शरीर का मेन ऑर्गन है। ये निरंतर पंप करता रहता है, बीट करता रहता है, धड़कता रहता है। सबसे पहले ऑक्सीजनेटेड ब्लड लंग्स से पल्मोनरी वेन्स के द्वारा लेफ्ट एंट्रियम में आता है। इस समय लेफ्ट एंट्रियम रिलैक्स्ड है। जब इसमें पूरा ब्लड आ गया तब ये कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करता है और ब्लड लेफ्ट वेंट्रिकल में पहुंच जाता है। इस समय वेंट्रिकल रिलैक्स्ड रहता है। जब लेफ्ट वेंट्रिकल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करता है तो ऑक्सीजनेटेड ब्लड बॉडी के डिफरेंट पार्ट्स में पहुंच जाता है, एरोटा और डिफरेंट आर्टरीज से होता हुआ। डीऑक्सीजनेटेड ब्लड बॉडी के डिफरेंट पार्ट से राइट एट्रियम में आता है, डिफरेंट वेन्स से होता हुआ, वेना केवा सुपीरियर और इन्फीरियर से होता हुआ राइट एट्रियम में आ जाता है। इस समय राइट एट्रियम रिलैक्स्ड है। फिर जब ये कॉन्टैक्ट होती है तो ब्लड राइट एट्रियम से राइट वेंट्रिकल में पहुंच जाता है। अब राइट वेंट्रिकल कॉन्टैक्ट होगा तो डीऑक्सीजनेटेड ब्लड ऑक्सीजन प्राप्त करने के लिए टू बिकम ऑक्सीजनेटेड लंग्स में भेजा जाता है पल्मोनरी आर्टरीज के द्वारा। इस समय ये ध्यान रखने वाली बात है कि पल्मोनरी आर्टरीज ही वो आर्टरी है जिसमें कि ब्लड डीऑक्सीजनेटेड होता है और पल्मोनरी वेन्स वो वेन्स है जिसमें कि ब्लड शुद्ध रक्त बहता है, यानी कि ऑक्सीजनेटेड ब्लड। ब्लड इसको हम डबल सर्कुलेटरी सिस्टम भी कहते हैं क्योंकि इसमें एक बार ब्लड साफ होने के लिए ऑक्सीजनेशन के लिए लंग्स में जाता है और एक बार लंग्स को पंप होता है और एक बार डिफरेंट बॉडी के पार्ट्स को पंप होता है। ब्लड वेसल्स, दीज आर द ब्लड vessels, arteries and veins. These are two kind. Arteries oxygenated blood को हार्ट से बॉडी पार्ट तक ले जाती है। वेन्स डीऑक्सीजनेटेड ब्लड बॉडी पार्ट से कलेक्ट करके हार्ट तक ले जाती है। आर्टरीज की वॉल थिक होती हैं, लचीली होती हैं। वेन्स की वॉल थिन होती हैं और लचीली नहीं होती हैं इतनी। आर्टरीज में वॉल्स नहीं होते हैं, वेन्स में वॉल्स होते हैं जो कि बैक फ्लो ऑफ ब्लड को रोकते हैं। आर्टरीज बॉडी में डीपर होती हैं, वेन्स इतनी ज़्यादा डीप नहीं होती हैं, स्किन से भी दिखाई देती हैं। हार्ट पंप करता है ब्लड को। ब्लड एक तरह का कनेक्टिव टिश्यू है जिसमें बहुत सारे सेल्स तैरते रहते हैं। प्लाज्मा लिक्विड पार्ट है जिसमें कि रेड ब्लड सेल्स, वाइट ब्लड सेल्स एंड प्लेटलेट्स तैरते रहते हैं। द मेन फंक्शन ऑफ ब्लड इज ट्रांसपोर्टेशन ऑफ ऑक्सीजन एंड न्यूट्रिएंट्स टू वेरियस पार्ट्स ऑफ बॉडी एंड रिमूवल ऑफ कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड एंड वेस्ट मटेरियल फ्रॉम cells.
Transportation in plants, there are two main conducting pathways in a plant, xylem and phloem. Xylem carries water and minerals from the roots to other parts of the plants and no energy is used. Phloem carries product of photosynthesis from leaves to other parts of the plant. Energy is used from ATP. आप ये देख सकते हैं xylem में वन साइड होता है मूवमेंट ऑफ वाटर का और फ्लोएम है इसमें टू साइड्स होता है मूवमेंट ऑफ फूड का। एंड ट्रांसपिरेशन एंड इट्स फंक्शन, It is the process of loss of water as vapor from aerial part of the plants. Function absorption and upward movement of water and mineral by creating pull. Helps in temperature regulation in plant. Transport of food from leaves, food factory to different part of the plant is called translocation.
Excretion in human. Removal of waste nitrogenous material from the body is called excretion. Main excretory organ are kidney, ureter, urinary bladder, urethra. Let us discuss from the kidneys. The kidneys are a pair of bean-shaped organs located in the back of the abdomen, just below the rib cage, on either side of the spine. Each kidney is about 4 to 5 inches long, about the size of a fist. Its outer part is convex, while the inner one is concave. Internally, the kidney is divided into two regions, an outer narrow cortex and inner broad medulla. At the center of the kidney, there is a depression called the hilus. From the hilus, a narrow tube called the ureter emerges. The kidney receives blood from the renal artery, process it, and return the processed blood to the body through the renal vein. The waste and the other unwanted substance are removed in the form of urine. Ureter carries urine from the kidney to the urinary bladder. The kidney's function is to filter the blood. All the blood in our body passes through the kidney several times a day. Although the kidneys are small organs by weight, they receive about 20% of the total blood pumped by the heart. And the nephron is the functional unit of kidney. Each kidney consists of about more than 1 million nephrons. Each of these nephrons extend from the renal cortex into the renal medulla in a fairly linear fashion. Each nephron comprises of the following parts: Bowman capsules, proximal convoluted tubule or proximal tubule, loop of Henle, distal convoluted tubule or distal tubule, collecting duct. Okay, let us discuss what happens of the blood inside the kidney. Blood travels to each kidney through the renal artery. The renal artery enters the kidney at the hilus. As it enters the cortex, the artery branches to envelop the nephron. Each of the nephron contains a filter called the glomerulus, which contains a network of capillaries. In 1 minute, about 1.3 liter of blood passes through the kidneys. As the blood enters the glomerulus, it is at high pressure. Molecules of water, electrolytes, and other substances passes through the thin glomerular wall and enter the Bowman's capsule. This process is called glomerular filtration. The filtration membrane only allow water and small molecule to pass through it. Proteins and blood cells are too large to be filtered, and so they remain in the blood. This mixture called filtrate collects in the capsule, Bowman's capsule, and then drains into tubule. Each segment of the tubule reabsorbs different substance from the filtrate as it passes through them. Substances like glucose, amino acid, salts, and a major amount of water are selectively reabsorbed as the urine flows along the tube. The amount of water reabsorbed depends on the amount of water needed by the body and the amount of water to be exerted or the waste to be exerted. The collecting ducts drain into the ureter and finally into the bladder. Bladder stores the urine till it is excreted. Ureter. The ureter are the tubes made of smooth muscles fiber that carries the urine from the kidneys to the urinary bladder. Urinary bladder is a hollow muscular organ in the pelvic cavity. This organ functions as a temporary reservoir for urine. It collects urine excreted by kidneys and stores it until there is a urge to urinate. Urethra. The urethra is the tube through which urine is excreted from the bladder. Now let us discuss the artificial kidney or hemodialysis. Kidneys are vital organ for survival. Several factors like infection, injury, or restricted blood flow to kidneys reduce the activity of kidneys. This leads to accumulation of poisonous wastes in the body, which can even lead to death in case of kidney failure. An artificial kidney can be used. An artificial kidney is a device to remove nitrogenous waste products from the blood through dialysis. Artificial kidney contain a number of tubes with a semi-permeable lining suspended in a tank filled with dialysing fluid. This fluid has the same osmotic pressure as blood, except that it is devoid of nitrogenous waste. The patient's blood is passed through these tubes. During this passage, the waste products from the blood passes into dialysing fluid by diffusion. The purified blood is pumped back into the patient. This is similar to the function of the kidney, but it is different since there is no reabsorption involved. Normally, in a healthy adult, the initial filtrate in the kidney is about 180 liter daily. However, the volume actually excreted is only a liter or two a day because the remaining filtrate is reabsorbed in the kidney tubule.